Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I am AmalgamAsh, and today I want to show you how to use the map settings in RPG developer Bakin. There's a lot of good information here, so I hope that you'll stay tuned. All right, to illustrate the different map settings, I've just created this sample map. I've said this before, but if you do find your camera clipping into the environment, you can actually fix that by just going to the bottom right corner of the screen and clicking Perspective View. That'll sort things out. You can get as close as you need to now. So the first thing I want to cover is the random pen tool. The random pen tool is not easy to find until you know how to get to it, and then it's super easy to find and use. To use the random pen tool, we'll just select the object that we want to place down, like this tree. Then we'll make sure that we have the pen tool selected. Hold down the Control and Alt keys on your keyboard and just start clicking. What the random pen tool does is place the object that you have selected, but then randomly scale it and rotate it between values that you will define in game definition to provide you with some more natural, varied environment. See, all of these trees now look like several different assets, but in fact, it's the exact same asset, just scaled and rotated differently. If you want to change the properties of the random pen tool, just go to Game Definition on the left side of the screen, go to the Project Settings menu, and in the center pane, we have Basic Settings for Tool and Random Pen Settings. In Random Pen Settings, you can specify the scale minimum, and this can be a number from 0.1 all the way up to 10, and the scale max, which has the same limitations, but you'll want this number to be higher than the scale min number. Now you can actually be pretty precise with these settings. You can do something like 0.105 if you just want that exact size and set the scale max to 0.107. Now the things that you set down will be precisely within this size range. That means that they will vary only very slightly. We're going to go crazy and set the scale min to 1 and the scale max to 10 to illustrate this, but I also want to explain the Y rotation min and Y rotation max. This is how much the item that you set down can be rotated from 0 to 360 degrees. You can also limit these values so that your item doesn't rotate at all or only rotates within a very specific range. Note that you cannot enter negative values here. So if you want to place your item down and then scale it to a specific position, you'll have to use the rotate function of the widget in the map editor itself. We'll hit apply and OK, and then we'll set down a bunch of new trees. That one's huge, that one's extremely tiny. Some of them are so big that they have appeared off of the map. And if you have placed your items down, but you've decided that you absolutely need to have them on the ground, you can just right-click them and click Put on Terrain, or zoom out, select everything, and hit the Q key. Q will keep things flat on the ground. All right, now we live in one of the weirdest orchards on Earth. Orchard? I don't see any fruit. Well, we're growing chicken fruits. All right, let's cover some of the map settings now. The map settings were always very easy to find in Smile Game Builder. Here, it's a little bit different. You have to access the map settings window, but once you have it out, you can pin it to your screen anywhere you'd like. So if you don't have your map settings open, we can just go to View at the top of the window, click that, and go down to Map Settings Palette, and you can click that. Now, sometimes this will automatically dock itself, but for most users, it starts off over on the right side of the screen, tabbed with stamps. You can take it and place it anywhere you'd like. Bakin is remembering that I've docked it there before, that's why I put it there. I'm just going to dock it there again, kind of illustrate how the docking works. You see this widget appear whenever you try to dock something. We're going to put it down here at the bottom of the map list. That's where I feel it will be the most intuitive and make the most sense for me. Sometimes when you dock things, they will take up the entire section of the screen where you place them. You can actually see by hovering your mouse over the top section of that pane that your cursor will change, indicating by this double arrow and wall icon that you can click and drag this down. And actually, you've got both of your panes here. This one just dragged all the way up by default. I'll go ahead and drag it pretty far up because I don't need to see the map list for this example. I need to show you the map settings. Map settings are spread out across several different tabs, and it'll start off in the basic tab. And this is where you can edit all of your basic information. So you can change the name of your map, whether or not it is visible. You can change the texture settings, that is the resolution, the option to use a texture filter. You can change the animation interval for the tiles that you're going to place down that are animated. And you can change the cluster size, which will help when loading the map in for your players and during test play. You can change the size of the map, and you can change where the map will be anchored when you add more tiles. So just to illustrate this better than explaining it, I'm going to click camera from above and we can see the map from above. I'm going to click out of this grid of 9 different anchor symbols. I'm going to click the top left one and I'm going to add 10 to our X, which is set to 30, so we'll make it 40, and we'll set our Z axis to 40. That's going to give us a 40 by 40 tile map. We're currently on a 30 by 30. I'm going to click Apply Texture Settings and Map Resize, and you can see that it has anchored the existing map to the top left of the screen, and that's what this setting here does. So if I undo that change, and I click the center icon and anchor it in the center, then I can add more tiles to my X. Say I'll add 20 tiles, so now the X dimension will be 50, and the Z dimension is 30, I'll add 10 more tiles. So now the Z dimension will be 40 tiles across, and I'll click Apply Texture Settings and Map Resize. And now it's anchored it in the center of our new dimensions, but it has given us the tiles that I've specified. You can also change which tiles you'd like to add once you change your map in this way using the Terrain at Extension option. It's set to C by default, but you can change this to anything. I'm going to undo that. Under this, you have the sound settings. You can specify the BGM and the environmental sounds for this map. They will play simultaneously and they can be controlled simultaneously or separately. You can change the rendering related settings, so the environmental effects, as well as whether or not to preload said effects. You can change the camera to be used and select from the variety of cameras that you can create using the camera tool, or you can disable the camera entirely, and you can call up to 2 events before even displaying the map for common events and things like that. You could call a simple common event that displays the name of the map you're on without ever having to change the contents of the common event, for example. All right, let's go to the Map tab. Here you can change the current location map display settings. I haven't found a practical reason to use this yet. You can click the Rendering tab to access all of the rendering options, and there have been quite a few users who are asking how to turn off things like fog and depth of field. This is where you will do that for your map. You can select from any of the preset post effects, and you can change the parameters of any of those presets. Now, they're all using the exact same parameters, so you can change any one of these effects into any of the other effects by changing the parameters for it. We just have an immense amount of templated presets to use. So I know that I'm going to use daytime, but I would like to get rid of some of these special effects here. You can do that by looking through the properties that exist. So under background, you can actually specify the background skybox model you'd like to use for this map, background color, background material, intensity, environmental map. You can change the color and intensity of the light, as well as shadow angles, lights on buildings, billboard brightness. You can change the ambient color intensity and IBL intensity. You can toggle fog settings on and off, toggle auto exposure settings on and off, as well as SSAO, bloom, depth of field, vignette, LUTs, chromatic aberrations, and SSSS. So using these settings, you can get a much clearer view of what kind of map your player will see and when you test play the game. The next tab is enemy distribution, and it's from here you can add areas for encounters, as well as specify probability of the encounter when conditions are met, number of enemies that can appear in one battle within the area, minimum steps and maximum steps, and coordinates of the start and end points of the area range. You can also give each area its own name. You can change the selected enemy distribution properties by clicking on the area name and changing the settings. You can change the BGM environmental sound, specific battle background, and even precise placement of the casts. How's that? You can place the heroes as well as the enemies for each enemy distribution area. And of course, you can add specific enemy casts generated in that distribution down here at the bottom. The last tab is editor settings, and it is from here we can change the rotation of the map, the viewpoint, and the angle of view, and you'll see these numbers update in real time as you are zooming in and out and rotating around the map. You can also change the manipulator operation space target switching between world coordinates and local coordinates, and manipulator center handling switching from object center to multiple selection center. You can make the manipulator size smaller or larger as well. We can actually change the angle of view all the way out to 90, we can change the viewpoint of the camera. We can actually offset the camera. If you found that you've changed your settings and you're unable to save them, it's because you are editing one of the files that comes as a read-only project. You can easily go to your file menu at the top of the screen and save as a new project, and then you'll be able to make whatever changes you want and save them. Now, the viewpoint changes we have made actually just affect the editor. If you want to change how offset the camera is for test playing and for in-game purposes, that will be something you do using the camera tool. But by changing the viewpoint settings, we've actually changed our anchor. And that's all the time I have for this video. I hope that this answered a lot of your camera and map editing questions. Don't forget that you can individually scale items, turn objects into events, rotate them freely, copy, paste, place directly on the ground, or even lift them up in the air with your new Bakin telepathic powers. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye for now.